How did you do your work, Trevor, with infrared in the late 50s? Explain that.
Well, I took unto myself the idea that we have a certain window through which we perceive ocularly. Eyesight has a certain bandwidth. And if you took 1,000 people, most of them would perceive within that range of frequencies, the red at one end and the violet at the other. And use of infrared film is simply the use of a specially sensitized film in an ordinary camera, where that film is sensitized by dyes to extend into the infrared. And what this does is widen your window on reality. And I looked at these naval sightings off Okinawa in 1945, and I deduced from that the frequencies that are used for microwave radar immediately adjoin the infrared. They morph into the infrared, in fact. So my thinking was, why don't we go into the infrared and see if these things that are invisible to the eye are visible to infrared film? It's a very simple step, straightforward, and you know, there's no mysticism, no magic, no metaphysics. And that's what it did. And of course we started doing it, and here, lo and behold, in this immediately adjacent realm, before the red, the infrared, are forms, objects that we would have to describe as UFOs, but perhaps not the ships from other planets that people had precipitately felt the UFO phenomenon was confined to.
But not confined to that at all,
No.
as you found out. In point of fact, these objects which you photographed, if you will, filmed with infrared film, may well be living organisms in some cases.
That's right. I think the very first large success we had with this shook us, because up to that time we were already sold on the idea ourselves that this was ships from other planets. This was what it was all about.
Right.
It had to be that, because our mechanistic minds did not allow any other possibilities. So we hold up this film. It was processed by a professional photographer in North Hollywood. It wasn't even processed by us. And he came running out of the dark room, and he says, "You got him! You got him! You got him!" And here was this huge disc, you know, that discoidal form on the film that left no doubt that the thing was there. It was something, an artifact that we had not seen, that was right close to us. But the trouble was it had anatomical details. It looked like something from under the microscope.
Yeah, all right, pretty amazing. Be right back with Trevor James Constable in just a couple minutes. Okay, talking with Trevor James Constable about his work in the 1950s, filming with infrared film huge aerial creatures that apparently live in the atmosphere like fish live in the water. These are plasmoidal types of objects. And how many altogether different archetypes did you discover, Trevor?
Oh, I would say probably 5 or 6 main types that came through the years to these methods. But the great majority of the things that were detected were spheroidal. And this, of course, relates to the Mexican experience of recent date.
Right.
That is at least partially due in an etheric sense to the fact that they are heat objects. They consist very largely of warmth ether in those terms.
They give off heat. And
yes, and that's why they are spheroidal also, because spheroidal things are normally produced by the activity of the warmth ether. That's how we understand that.
Okay, we need to define ether for our audience again.
Well, it's like a very ultra-subtle undergirding to the physical world. It's not accepted by conventional science, but as I have shown in the rain engineering developments, it is technologically accessible with very very simple equipment. In fact, the devices that I use, I often boast that they are the simplest technological devices in the world. There's nothing simpler. It's a hollow tube with nothing in it.
Yeah.
And this is how you tap into the ether, and you can make it do what you want within limits, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But all this should, have long ago received university attention and been driven forward with proper resources as a national priority, instead of being left in the hands of somebody like myself, a lone operator all by himself, and battling the odds of mass opinion in every phase of it.
Well, you're one of the great adventurers of the last half century and into the new century as well, and you're tough, and thanks to you we have this technology now, and I am very proud to say that I own both the videos that I originally. The videos are available. You folks really ought to look at this. If you think it's a joke, it's not. It's amazing.
It's pressed down, running over, and actually I've got miles of time-lapse video that I've never released or put together. I just haven't had time to do it.
No, well, what you have put out.
It is absolutely beyond contradiction, and it's not my fault if the universities can't take this up or follow it down.
Right.
They're trying to send missiles through Saddam Hussein's bathroom window. That's where their heads are.
Exactly. Now, the Mexican images, when you first saw the story and saw the pictures, immediately connected back with your work of a half century ago.
Oh, absolutely. This incident in Mexico is, in my opinion, the most signal thing that has happened in ufology since the very inception of the modern period with Kenneth Arnold and others.
Wow.
There's nothing that compares with it for the force that it carries. You have, first of all, a solid statement being issued under the imprimatur of the Secretary of Defense for Mexico.
Right.
He is the Rumsfeld of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not an individual that you can brush into the gutter. Secondly, you have the men aboard the aeroplane themselves have spoken in interviews to describe exactly and precisely what their experiences were. All of this has been released to the world at large, and the chief feature of it is that they did not see these objects visually.
Right.
That is the cardinal point, and nothing like this has happened since ufology came into the world in the 40s.
We see, apparently, in the skies, emptiness, but
Yes.
the skies are far from empty.
That's right. We found when we were exposing infrared film, and this, Jeff, would also be true right down to this day, that if you expose infrared film and you are careful about how you process the film so that you get a balance between light and dark in the negative, and then you print from that negative like you would an ordinary photograph,
Right.
and you look very carefully into the background of the print. You see all kinds of forms and shapes that you do not see with the eye, and there are many of the classic Adamski type flying saucers. In a skyscape, you want to photograph in infrared. You just have to look for them in the right way in the photographic prints.
Adamski.
Right.
You said a kind of another legendary
Yes.
name.
Yes, Uncle George.
Yeah. People hearing you talk about these things would say, okay, we can't see them with the naked eye. They're in the infrared range. Does that mean that they're not physically there in our sense of three-dimensional reality, or does it mean that they are there, but they're just vibrating at a different level and we can't see them?
That's right. That's exactly right. And the same thing is true at the other side of the visible spectrum, the ultraviolet. When you go beyond the violet, you have another range of form up there. And, NASA shot a great deal of ultraviolet videotape from that shuttle in 1996. And there was UFOs all over that footage, and they looked like something out of the cosmic pulse of life.
That is a stunning piece of videotape, and
Yeah,
I've got